I'm Dr. Allan Perel, and this is Conversations in Medicine. This program focuses on cutting-edge medical issues with a focus on the Staten Island community. I'm a neurologist on Staten Island and have an autistic son, Harrison. He's the love of our family's lives. I'd like to thank the Hungerford School for making this wonderful banner, Dr. Mary McInerney, the principal, Lindsay Miller, assistant principal, all the staff who take care of him and help him and educate him and help many students on Staten Island. Today's program will deal with autism and specifically the relationship between autism and siblings with autism. And with this, I have a wonderful guest panel here today. This is Jackie Perel, same last name, who's president of Siblings with Autism, Gabrielle De Leon, a good family friend and his brother Christopher has autism, and my son Evan, who's vice president of Siblings with Autism. Jackie, I'd like to ask you, how did you start this organization, and what were your goals, and where are we with it?
So my mom actually was running a parents group, and I thought the siblings would like an outlet to speak about their experiences and their struggles, and even some advice they'd like to share with each other. So my goal was really to expand the sibling community and to create a place that is safe to expound upon things that they might struggle with.
Mm-hmm. You have a pamphlet that you put out, and it's marvelous. It's almost like a survival guide for people with autism, families, siblings with autism. And you saw there was a hole or a need that needed to be met with it. So tell me, the first question in your pamphlet says, what's it like to have a sibling with autism?
You know, it's actually pretty typical in our lives. Our brother Harrison, he is a part of our everyday life, and you know, we as siblings learn to deal with triggers and stressful situations, and we've actually learned a lot from observing our parents, you and our mom, and seeing how you guys deal with stressful situations and how to avoid them, or even if they're unavoidable, to deal with them in a calm manner that results in a harmonious situation.
And just to say how proud we are of all three of you and really what you've done trying to put this together. Gabrielle, how does having an autistic sibling, in your case a brother, affect when you go out in public?
Well, going out in public is very unpredictable and sometimes isn't always easy. But you learn, my brother Christopher, I learned that, you know, some things do set them off that, you know, wouldn't set me off in a way, you know, for instance, like a baby crying or perhaps like an ambulance, like a loud noise. So we do things to help them, you know, kind of be able to sit down and like calm them. For instance, my brother likes movies, so we bring a DVD player, you know, anything that will make a situation that's hard more copable, any mechanism really that will calm them down.
I mean, it's interesting times. I mean, there are things such as bullying and seeing people with developmental delays. We've really tried to be, as a society, more integrative with this. And we know that autism is a complex neurodevelopmental disorder. It's characterized by repetitive behaviors, having social interaction problems, having sensory integrative problems. The autism spectrum, as they describe it, means that autism is different in everyone. It could range anywhere from people who might have Asperger's syndrome, who would be mildly affected in social situations, to people who aren't functioning at that high a level. The latest data says that about 1 in 68 children have autism. It's an epidemic. Boys get autism more than 4 times more commonly than girls. We don't know the cause of autism. There's clearly genetic factors, environmental factors. We don't have a treatment specifically for the underlying process. We know it's a brain condition. And interestingly, in autism, as a neurologist, we actually see some parts of the brain look bigger than you would think. And you would think that with autistic people, that their brain should be smaller or different. It's not the case. There's part of the brain called the cerebellum that's affected. There's also something called mirror neurons, which is a fancy medical word for what I'm able, if I look at you as a baby, as an infant, and even as a toddler, I mimic what you do. Those are called mirror neurons or mirror nerves. And those mirror nerves don't work well in autistic kids, autistic adults. And our population is aging. So we're seeing more and more people needing work programs, needing things after the age of 21 that schools really just can't provide after 21. So autism is a very, very complicated process. It's a scourge, it's an epidemic, And clearly we're looking for more and more resources to be involved. As I was mentioning with regard to treatment, we have tremendous amount of things that we could treat for the behavioral issues and for learning. Special speech therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists are all crucial cogs in treating someone with autism. It clearly takes a village to take care of someone and help someone achieve the best that they could achieve. We're looking for people to do great. I want my son to be perfect, but I also want him to do really the best that he could do. And that's so, so important. Medications, there are medicines that we need sometimes to use for people. Because of with autism, people with behavioral issues, seizures are more common in people with autism. So medicines are often part of this, but the medicines are not the cure that we don't have. What I'd like to ask my son Evan is, when you go out in public, and we talked about some of the repetitive things that autistic people do, that they do certain things that might to other people not look normal, which is a terrible word to use. What do you do when you go out and say someone stares at your autistic brother, or if you're with a group of his friends, what do you do? What do you think about that?
Like as you said, 1 in every 68 people have autism, so it's not an uncommon sight. People see this around, it's always happening. And I feel people do this when they don't know exactly what is going on in a situation. So they might not exactly understand what this person has and why this person is acting a certain way. But on the other aspect, people look at people who are differently. So if, let's say you see a person with green hair, people normally stare at that person. So in that regard, it's just any person in general who is different, people are going to tend to stare at. And
do you get offended if someone stares at a relative? Or
no, you just really have to get used to it, because you know it's going to happen. Uneducated people are going to do what they're going to do, and you have to just learn to accept it.
You're in a unique situation. You go to CSI High School, and your brother Harrison goes to the Parker School, Parker Division of the Hungerford School at CSI High School. So you're in the same building with him. How is that? Is that unusual to be in the same building? And really, to talk about inclusion, so many more people with children and young adults with developmental delays are in inclusion places. So how does it feel when you see your brother in school, or do you feel protective of him? Are you concerned? Well, tell me about that. And it's an unusual circumstance.
Yeah, well, I don't see him as much as you think I would, because the community the teachers try to keep them not enclosed, but tries just very protective over them. But whenever I do see him, I always say hi. I tell my friends to say hello to him. There's actually a couple programs in the school where children are actually they interact with them, and they just anything, they go talk to them, draw with them. So I always tell my friends to try and be active and say hello to him whenever they can, so he tries to feel like he's always welcome.
That's wonderful. So this organization, Siblings with Autism, I mean, I know Jackie's the president, or the vice president, Gabrielle is everyone else, and we're trying to make this into more of a local, citywide, national organization. I mean, Jackie has done a tremendous amount of work to do this. Do you think this kind of a pamphlet or guide is helpful to people? Jackie?
I think there are a lot of frequently asked questions that nobody can really find the exact answer to, and we at Siblings with Autism try to attempt to answer those questions to the best of our abilities as people who have experience with siblings who have autism. And we hope to try the best of our abilities to give advice to people who are struggling.
So let me throw some questions out. And we talked about staring at someone who's autistic. What if it goes the next step? What if someone is actually bullied by someone? They're on a park bench, or they're on a swing, and some group of kids, adults, whoever, want that swing. They want to take over. And they say some things that are nasty, and you're far enough away, but you hear with one ear, any of you. What do you do if someone tries to bully one of your siblings who has autism?
I think that you should handle it in a very, not violent manner, because violence is never the answer. I think that you should more so try to make them understand the situation that's happening and, what is actually being dealt with. Not everyone is going to understand, and you just need to know when to walk away and not really stress yourself out so much, and just try to make people aware. That's what raising awareness is. That's why they call it autism awareness. We're trying to make people understand that not everybody is normal, or, so it's good to do that.
What if a situation gets out of hand? You know, as I said, your brother happens to be on a swing and somebody wants the swing and says something. What do you do?
Well, I think you would just take the upper hand and walk away because it's not worth the violence. It's not worth the argument. You just come back later, or just even if the person doesn't understand that the person has autism, you could explain to them what it is, and maybe they'll be more caring.
And how about in a school setting, if you see something like that, what would you do?
Address it. You have to address it.
Would you talk to anybody? Would you?
Absolutely. If depending where you are, maybe an authority, perhaps a police officer if it gets out of hand like that, maybe a principal, a teacher, anybody, you know, that would have an upper hand and authority that could maybe do something more than you would be able to do.
I also want to add that it's not that much different from regular bullying. Like there's no tolerance policies for people who are without autism and with autism. So it also shows that it's not really that much different than any other situation.
All of you are now over 17, doing a lot of different things, teenagers, young adults. Now, clearly your relationship has changed with your autistic sibling over time. It was different when you were 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 12, and now into your late teenagers and young adulthood. As you grow up, how has your relationship changed with your brother,
Well, you know, when you're younger and you're a kid, there's not much a difference that's set apart. You know, everyone plays with toys, everybody watches movies, Disney, things like that. When you get into your teenage years, I feel like, you know, hormones are raging, and just like any other sibling, just like, you know, them, or if I had another brother or sister like that, you argue, you learn what ticks each other off, and then when you grow older, like now I'm 21, my brother's 20, I know what makes him mad, he knows what makes me mad, and it's just like a normal relationship, siblings, you know what each one of you does, and you perhaps try to avoid that so there's no conflict, like everything else in your life.
How about you, Jackie? What do you think? How do things change when you've gotten older?
I feel like every autistic person is different, and in Harrison's case, he's actually developed a lot educationally and emotionally. He's much calmer than he used to be. He is not triggered by as much by a crying baby as he used to be. And educationally, he's started talking. He's developed speech skills. He's much better in social situations, and it's just a much easier, simpler routine than it used to be.
Okay. Evan, in a sense, really it's the same kind of question, but how do you develop a bond, whether it's your brother, whether it's your sister, whether it's someone in school, how do you develop a bond with someone who has autism? What do you try to, when you see someone and you want to sit down with them, whether it's a class thing, whether it's just a social thing, or whether it's your brother and we're away and you're going to be home for a few hours, what do you do to interact in a way that's meaningful time?
I don't think it's that much different than any other friend that a person would have. You have to find what each other have in common. You have to find things you like, even like going out to eat, spending time with that person, just being with them because they want to be with you and they want you to love them. So if you do that, then it's very easy to connect a bond with your autistic family member.
How about you, Jackie? Give me, and again, I'm going to run this through everyone because I think how you interact, and we're not just talking about bad places, outside places, or bullying places, just the idea how you interact at home in a calm place. What kind of things? How do you develop the bond?
I found that in any relationship, common interests are really quite significant. So my brother and I, we love to do art together, and Evan loves to play sports with Harrison as well, baseball, and anything that's really very interactive. Puzzles are a family game night staple, and we really develop an emotional bond that creates harmony throughout the house because of those things.
How about you?
Well, my brother loves Disney movies.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't, right? Disney's awesome. We watch movies together, you know, we paint pumpkins, anything that'll like make him, you know, keeping interest sometimes is hard. So sometimes it is hard to do things that you would do, you know, with another friend or another sibling. But, you know, you have to just see what they like and then go off them.
Now, what I think is always difficult is because we have your folks, you know, hopefully are healthy and around and people are there and significant others. How do you perceive, and again, when Jackie and Evan and Jackie wrote this whole pamphlet up and she came to me for advice, how do you perceive your role as interacting? And I'm not just talking about a bond as a brother, sister, but just really what's your role? And let's be very frank, do you get resentful if I go out or if your mom is out and you're the one who has to be there. Is there anything that you understand that your role, even though your brother might be older than you, that you somehow are more in charge of the situation? I mean, I'm going to really ask everyone, but Jackie, how do you feel your role is with relationship to your brother or anyone with autism or any developmental delay?
So someone with autism is going to take up a lot of your parents' attention, and you will have to learn to be understanding, but there's no reason why you can't spend time with your parents while they're helping your sibling, and there's no reason why you can't keep an open communication to discuss your struggles and discuss things that are bothering you, and maybe get support from your parents or other people to try and alleviate the stress you're under.
Gabrielle?
I agree with Jackie. I think that it's really good to communicate with the people in your household, whether it be your sibling, your mom, your dad, anybody. I never was once jealous of the attention that my mom gave my brother because I know that he needs it more than I do, and I'm totally okay with that, and I'm behind my mom 110%, supporting her, helping her. If she needs to go somewhere, she would like to go somewhere, she can't just pick up and go as well as, any other parent with, autism or anything like that. So I'm glad to help, and I enjoy it.
So it sounds very much like this is a family type thing.
It's a system.
Where it's a system where everyone is together, everyone becomes a little bit more understanding.
Right.
So Jackie and Evan could fight with each other all they want, that's okay, but sometimes it doesn't work out with things that are going on. But Evan, so tell me, what do you think about your role? I mean, especially you're a boy, male, he's a boy. Anything different about that than the role, than you think about where you are in the family and what you could do, or if you can't go out one night, or do something that you want to do because something else is going on in the family?
Well, like again, what you said earlier, it's a family, like everyone has to chip in. Everyone's sacrificing in the situation.
Right.
But as it comes to just him being a boy, I don't think it matters that much. But definitely athletics, I like to play catch with him. That's another way of like how I could bond with him. In that aspect,
Okay, that's a good answer. So now, Jackie, we're going to ask all three of you this, and it's a straightforward question. We all grow by seeing other people. We grow by learning from others. I grow from learning from people. My residents in the hospital, I'm over at the hospital. I learn from my patients every day. And every person who walks into my office, I ask them some interesting questions, what they do and what their family is like. Because in order to treat someone neurologically, you really have to know a little bit more about them than, well, my finger just hurts. So it has to be a little bit more. Every interaction, everything that we do, even doing this here today, you learn something. It's a whole different experience. And you guys are all college educated, high school, college, going all over the place. Tell me a few things that you've actually learned from your autistic sibling. What kind of things, not just what you can learn, what you did learn, but what have you learned, and how has it affected your life? And maybe I'll start with Jackie.
Well, first of all, I've learned to view it as a unique opportunity. I get to spend time with someone who has a different perspective on life. He's taught me to really be a calmer person, a kinder person, someone who is more inclined to see that diversity in a situation as something that is quite unique and quite an interesting feature, and something that is actually special and that you should appreciate. Affected my life. I'm not really sure what my life would be like without Harrison, but I don't want to imagine it. Harrison is just such a special part of our family, and I think he adds to our family. He's made us all better people.
And I think even as the father in this situation, just the people he's known, whether it's been the speech therapist, the occupational therapist, the people who've helped him out during the day, which he has someone so marvelous who spends some time with him in the afternoon, Suzette. And just those people have made our lives so much more complete by seeing other people and not just being locked into one certain area.
Yes, we always say that if anybody is nice to Harrison, it really shows their true character, because it takes a lot to really show kindness towards someone who's different and can't reciprocate that kindness in the normal way.
Absolutely.
So Gabrielle, tell me, what have you learned from Christopher?
Well, I don't even know where to start. My brother has truly made me a better person. I am more understanding, and I really understand what unconditional love means. I think we all can agree that unconditional love is, you accept somebody for who they are and what they are, and you grow with them. And, I often find him teaching me more than I teach and help him. He helps me, and I really appreciate him for that, as I'm sure you guys feel about Harrison as well.
And tell me, Evan, what any kind of specifics, whether it's how to appreciate a fishing tank or how to play with a DVD player and make sure it always works, or things. What have you learned from Harry?
I think it's more like his view is very objective, and I've learned a lot from that to take a very open approach to everything and just see everything straightforward.
So Jackie, we've talked a lot about our own family, and I think that generalizes to others. But the pamphlet that you put out, Autism, well, let me pick it up for a second, a guide. The question comes down to is, what do you expect others to do with this? I know we're rolling this out in some of the schools here, even the Hungerford School. I know you're going to be speaking, or when this gets played, when you've spoken. And to go to some other schools, you've spoken to one of the state senators, Diane Savino, about it, the borough president's office. What do you think this adds? We have a tremendous number of very good organizations that help autistic people, whether it's Grace, whether it's all these other Autism of America, all these other organizations. You told me that you thought this was something special because it was different. And we've talked about things as a sibling because everyone sees how genuine and how concerned you are about your sibling, your brother, and Gabrielle with her brother. And if I had 100 people here, we'd have very similar stories. And the key is, of course, to everyone being part of the family and part of this whole thing. What do you expect this to do? What awareness do you expect this to bring to the community? And do you think it's something that and you've said before, it really hasn't been touched on before. Is it because, why do you think it hasn't been touched on before?
Well, first, to address the pamphlet is basically just some frequently asked questions about autism, scientific questions, and the second half is experiences that I have faced with with Harrison, my autistic brother, and I've interviewed a couple of other people with autistic siblings, and resources. That's what the pamphlet is, basically a compilation of all those things. In regards to it being something special, I, as a sibling, have felt a very special connection to my brother Evan, because we discuss our difficulties and our struggles, and even with our parents. But it's something special to have a confidant who's going through the same thing you are. So I think to expand that sibling community and to make it something that extends across the country, or to people who are living in different geographical places, economic places, and still to feel that unity within each other and to have someone to confide in. That's very important.
When you've spoken to the groups that you've spoken to, what's been the reaction? I know you've spoken to both the faculty at some of the schools, and you've spoken to a group of siblings. What's their response? Do they feel like they've been left out? Do they feel, mom and dad are trying to get on and get through a very difficult, mom and dad, or mom or dad, trying to get through a very difficult time in the family? What reactions are you getting from siblings? And has that helped in any way to change what you're doing, what your impressions are?
So the reaction I've gotten from siblings is they don't feel like they've been missing out on anything, but they feel like it's an addition to their lives. To see someone else's perspective is really something they didn't know they wanted. And to have it put together on a website or a pamphlet is really something that's special, because it allows them to see a little bit into somebody else's experiences or similar experiences.
How about the faculty? Have they had any feedback to you?
The faculty, the faculty feels like extended members of people with autism, their students, their families. So I think they want to make sure everyone in the family is accounted for and feels included. And I've gotten feedback saying that this is something that the siblings really needed and didn't know they needed.
So Gabrielle, it's hard to talk amongst one family, and clearly I know your family, you guys have been family friends for years and years, you and your wonderful mom. The question comes down to, in a sense, do you feel when you were growing up, I know you said you're 21 right now,
Right.
Would this kind of an organization, would this kind of a pamphlet, would this help you in any way?
Absolutely. I feel like I personally have dealt with the situation that, the cards that I was dealt very well. There was really never a time where I felt like I didn't know how to handle something. I just feel like I grew with the situation. But as everybody, you get weak points, and you lose your way a little bit, and you really think to yourself, like, I have to be strong, I have to do this. And I feel like Jackie's pamphlet is really great for a lot of autism siblings. It's really good. It's really helpful. You did a great job.
Evan, do you think there's a need? And I'll go a little further. Sometimes putting things out just to put things out doesn't really do much. And when Jackie came to me with this, I looked askew a little bit. As a father, I said to myself, I think I do enough. I talk to my kids, I talk to my family. Harrison's part of us. We're all part of one family, and we try to live as well as we can and do as well as we can. And you're both mom and myself, are here to give you guys the best lives we possibly can. Do you feel that this would have helped you 5 years ago to have some idea of what to do in different situations?
I think it definitely would, but I think more in the aspect that I don't feel alone and that there's a community that knows exactly what I'm going through and has like literally a guideline on what to do in certain situations. And I also feel like this also would have helped me in younger years when I actually didn't know a lot of the stuff that this brings out.
Thank you. Thank you all. Autism awareness. Autism is an epidemic, and we're becoming more and more aware of autism. We're seeing this more commonly. This came out in the 1940s, and now it's become an epidemic, as I said before, and 1 out of 60-something people, 4 times more boys than girls have this. And the numbers just keep going higher. Sometimes we look for cures that aren't there, and I wish there was something there that we can get right now, but through research we're getting there. I'm just very proud of this wonderful panel. They're such wonderful people. I know 2 of them are my kids, and Gabrielle, like my own daughter, who's so marvelous and really caring about this. Jackie's idea of putting this together, I think, when she came to me, was something that was so novel. I never really saw the need. And if you look around, there really hasn't been much talked about this. So, Jackie, what I'd like you to do is just in the last closing minute, is you've come up with an interesting idea. It's gaining notoriety on a moment-by-moment basis. As I said, the borough president is taking action with it. The state senator out here, the city and the state governor's office is looking at this. It's making this almost a required program in almost every school. And when we say a required program, we mean just giving the handout and spending 10 minutes and you speaking as you have been around Staten Island. Could you just summarize it in the last few seconds about what you think about this, why you did this, and really how someone could contact you?
Of course, I did this really for the families who need a little extra support or who want someone to confide in. And I'm always available. My email address is on our website. It's pereljacqueline@aol.com. And our website is www.siblingswithautism.com. And we are happy to hear from you, and we will respond as quickly as possible and make sure you are not alone. So we're just here to help.
I'm so proud of you guys, and as a neurologist that sits home, and I hope one day we'll have the show and say there'll be a cure. Thank you.